So the other document is one that I use so the one I handed out to you is about recasting. And it's going to walk us through step by step how recasting works. I purposely made that one so that you could use it. And I apologize, it printed two-sided. So hopefully that doesn't make it too confusing as we flip through. But that's one that I made to where you could use that with a client to explain to them what the process is and use their actual numbers if you want. The other and the first document that we'll talk about here is this is a little kind of what are your options when you need to sell a home before you buy it. You have a home to sell and you're going to buy a home. Oftentimes I found when I was at listing appointments, I would be trying to explain to them like what their options were. And I kept grabbing like a piece of paper and trying to do it where I'm like grabbing the piece of paper and scrawling it out. And I would get super flustered in the listing appointment because they're looking at me like I have 7 heads because they're very overwhelmed with the fact that like we're talking a lot of numbers. I just told them all this crap they need to do to their house. And so after doing that a number of times, I'm like, I needed to develop a crutch, a visual, so that I can have it and I can calmly explain it. And that's what this was. A little bit of purposefulness in how I designed this. And when you guys are designing tools and those crutches to take out to your listing appointments, put a tiny bit of thought in how you do it. I made this one half a sheet. So literally when I designed it, it was half a sheet of paper. And then it comes out of the printer like this. I take a paper cutter and make it look like this by just cutting off one side of it, right? Sounds really stupid. Sometimes it was really fancy and printed it on cardstock, which made me look really, really professional. My logo on it, like I'm fancy, right? But it also in my listing presentation made it a different size, which I think was like a nice visual and kind of took like a different texture and like level when you're doing and like it being on cardstock made it different. So as you're piecing together a listing presentation, those are little details to take into consideration that will make you look like a really well put together agent. Also, easier to find the half sheet of paper and all of the things that are in that listing presentation folder if there's a lot of stuff going on in the room. So if we've got husband and wife and they're like going at it about when we should be listing or what should be going on, I can just calmly reach over and grab that red folder and say, excuse me, okay, this is the one I need. Everybody, let's calm down. Let's talk just for a second about how we can do this, okay? The other thing is I purposely used the map in the part of town that I wanted to work in the background as a subliminal message. So when you look at this, you might see that you're going to see Roland Park. You're going to see Mission Hills. You're going to see Fairway. It's stupid and it's little, but that was something that my mind went to as like a subliminal way of like working in a little bit of that detail. Okay, so here y'all go for that as well. Hopefully it's helpful. I've got an email already set up, ready to send you out these templates. Unfortunately, I don't know that I have the recasting one. I have that in a format that it's easy for you to edit and make your own changes to. This one, I might take me digging and I don't know that I have it. We might just recreate something new. Okay. So guys, what are sometimes some of the reasons when someone says, I have a house to sell, what would be some of the reasons that they're going to have some hesitation in listing their home and selling it and buying a new one? They don't know like where they're going to live and like what that's going to look like. What's the new house? Any other things that you've heard? I know some are newer in the room. Some have dealt with a lot of
like when's the right time to go on the market
for their house.
Yeah.
How do we time this?
Right.
No, that's a good point, right? Because they hear spring's the time to do it.
Right.
It's a great question that you're gonna get, right? Like, so Zach, we should probably list our house in the spring because that's when everyone's buying, right? Anyone, I'm gonna try to watch online, guys. If Kristen or Elizabeth or Jordan, if you've got any questions, feel free to put them on chat and I will try to watch for those. Guys, a lot of times I would get, Elizabeth, it's great and grand, but we hear houses are going in multiple offers. And I don't want to own 2 houses. I don't want to go buy a house before I know that this house is sold and exactly how much I'm going to get out of this house. Or all of the equity you just told us about in our house, Elizabeth, that's the 20% down on the new house, 20% down on the new house. Like, sorry, I'm not going to go buy another house and not be able to use this equity I have, right? And a lot of times if I wasn't prepared, the conversation stalled there. And I'd be like, oh, yeah, contingency offers really aren't going to get accepted in the, or they're a lot harder to get accepted in the area you're looking. And like, if you're new, like doom and gloom a little bit about it, like, let's talk to the lender and like, right? Like maybe it is important you talk to a lender. Okay. And that is step 1. You may not have the ability to do that at your listing presentation, right? So it's better to probably keep here are the options of how we can proceed. We'll need to talk to Tanner first about what you can and are capable of. But if you'd like, why don't tonight we just walk through some hypotheticals? And you guys can have some conversations, or you individual can kind of think through your options. That way, when you talk to Tanner, you're going to be quite aware of which way, and we can have another conversation after that, okay? Because step one is talking to a lender on whether or not your client can buy a home non-contingent on the sale of their home. Meaning that they do not have to sell and close and get the proceeds from their house to afford to have a second home. So they're going to qualify for both homes when they're non-contingent. They have to have the down payment for the new home and be able to have some reserves. And Tanner is going to tell you all of this. There's a great training that I'll include in my email as well that he did on recasting and kind of some of this, that if you want another version or another opinion and go with layer deeper on it, that would be a great one to watch. I think it's 30 minutes maybe. And yet, so he's gonna, those reserves too can come from 401k. Those reserves can come from, okay, you've got some, there's different places they can come from. It does not mean that they have to have all the money for the down payment plus carrying 2 mortgage payments in liquid cash in their bank account. Does that make sense? And you explaining at this same level of like, I'm not really sure, this is Tanner's thing, is completely acceptable as a real estate agent. Okay, your job is not to be the absolute expert on all of those things when it comes to lenders. That's why you have great lending partners. And it keeps you out of it a little bit, right? I don't know about you. I like selling houses. I like numbers, but I don't like the lending stuff, right? Like I don't like needing to know how quick they have to get money back in their 401k or where things have to be or what gifts can be done, all of that. So as an agent, know it's okay to just have the high level piece and explain to them what questions to talk to Tanner about, and then kick it over to Tanner, and his team and him will do a great job with it. Okay, so we're going to walk through then at that point. Here are some options of how we get from point A to point B. I will try to zoom in, or can you guys see this okay up here on the screen? So the first would be to say, guys, one option for you would be to go find your new home, make an offer on that home, non-contingent if Tanner says you can qualify. Also, guys, totally okay to use your preferred lender's name, Tanner, and connect them already so they feel comfortable with Tanner and know who Tanner is. And then they just call Tanner and everybody keeps moving forward and you get to work with a great partner, right? Okay, so if you're non-contingent on the selling of your home, then we could put it on the, we could go ahead and go find the new house and negotiate a longer close. And I purposely have this diagram to show we're going to find the new one, make it not contingent on the sale of your house. We could try to negotiate a longer close of 60 days. And then while we're looking for that house, guys, and we've heard about how we may not be successful immediately. And I know you've said this is a second home. We're not rushing it this time, Elizabeth. I'm getting what I want because I'm not moving again until these kids are out of college. That gives them calm that we have time to go make and look and find the right house for you. That'll make shoulders drop a little. And while we're doing that, we're going to be working on all those projects we just talked about when we walked around, getting your house ready. So no, we're going to try to negotiate that longer close to where we have a longer window to work within. Once we get through inspections, we can then go ahead and pop your house on the market because it's ready to go. We've been working on it. And then we can we'll receive offers. I think if you're willing to work with me on price, then we're going to be able to negotiate a shorter closing on that maybe. And if possible, maybe try to line up closing dates to where we don't have to do any of that, pull money out of 401k, but I need you to be prepared if we choose this option, that if something happens to the closing on your home that you're selling, that you're going to have the funds and you're going to be comfortable moving forward with closing on the new house. At this point, lots of questions do sometimes come up or their eyes are glazed over. I often would take a second and say, does that make sense? Any questions? And then believe it or not, I would shut up. And sometimes questions would come out there. Okay, well, Elizabeth, with that option, could we maybe move into the new house if we're okay with it? I mean, I think we are, we already talked to Tanner. We're qualified to do non-contingent. Could we do it to where maybe we closed and then we could move in and maybe paint and do some of that stuff and then move in and then put ours on so we could have a bigger window? Yes. And then you could go down the conversations a little bit on payments and that recasting piece a little bit more, right? So that's what they're going to be talking through with you. And that's the purpose of pausing. So it's not ramrodding through everything, but pausing. And if that's a go and they say, yes, let's do this, go with that option, guys. You're going to have you're going to have a staged house, you'll have a motivated buyer, and move forward. But second option would be to say, we can also go find your new so option 2, go find your new house, make it non-contingent on the sale of this house. We can negotiate a shorter closing, and then we can go ahead and close, move into that home, and then list your house for sale. So you, as an agent, might be looking at having a different conversation with that client. And these people sometimes are ones that are going, Elizabeth, we can barely make it to the dining room table because there's so much crap in this house. And we just walked around and you told me about staging, just get involved me we don't have family here. I have to get a U-Haul. I have to run a storage unit. Like, it's like moving twice. Like, that sounds like a lot of work. My wife travels every single week. That doesn't sound fun. We've got multiple, right? Like, those are clients that are going to go, I would much rather, if we've got the financial capability to buy without selling, let's do that option. And we'll move everything in the new house, and then we can put this on and we don't have to worry. We'll just be an empty house. Okay, at that point, you can talk about staging. Sometimes I would say, would you leave some stuff behind for me and not take everything? Sometimes we would talk about bringing in new furniture and the cost of that staging. I will tell you, to be honest, in my experience, everyone is nodding. Yeah, we can leave behind some stuff. Yeah, Elizabeth, yeah, totally. We won't take everything. No, cool, yes. And then it comes time for them to move and they take everything. I don't know, Sarah, if you guys experience that with some of your clients, where you're like, oh, what happened to leaving me a rug and a couch? And like the movers come and they say, well, then we have to pay movers twice and like whatnot. So just know that that might be the agreement you get at the listing table, that dining room table. And when the day comes, be prepared for an empty house. And that's okay too, right? But so that would be kind of walking through that option. There's a ton of people that will say, heck yes, let's do that. The third option, and there are additional options, guys, but the third option I would always kind of present and then work off of what that special situation could be, because these were the most common, were to say, okay, we're going to list your home for sale and start showings. We'll go ahead and receive an offer, and then we're going to try to negotiate a longer close. It's a seller's market, so we could probably see if we couldn't get 90 days, 60 days. No, it may very well take away some of your negotiation power as a seller, because a cash buyer or somebody might be willing to give you more money, but want in it quicker. But you guys, we got to think about big picture, and like that this is an option. And if you need to sell your house before you buy, or that's your comfort level, we can do that. And then we're putting your house, we're going and putting an offer in on the new house contingent on the sale of your home. That is going to make it towards, we're also losing some negotiation power there, because a homeowner is going to not want to take on the risk of your house falling through and then the contract falling through. And that's when you're explaining how contingencies work. Again, guys, read your, know your audience. If this is all your audience can do, they cannot qualify for 2 homes at one time. Your tone changes. Your empathy changes, right? We talk about it differently. If you know that they are very well qualified, and or one party might feel one way about it, another party might feel another way about it, don't be afraid to point out the pain in going going contingent, right? And say, okay, guys, just know your negotiation power on selling your home might be a little lost. Your negotiation power on buying a home is going to be a little weaker. And sometimes you can flip some of those people that are on the fence and a little uncomfortable about taking the risk of buying before they sold their house, and get them moved over to the camp of, well, actually, that sounds a lot less risky. Let's do that, kind of a thing. But no, that's, as an agent, you're reading your audience and you're going through and having that conversation. Any questions there? Everybody good with the pace, or am I going too slow or too deep?
3, do both of those at the same time.
Option 3, yes, like you are going to try to, I mean, your client, if you can get your client ready so that, yes, you would be trying to do it at the same time. The other challenge with option 3, you sold their house, you're an amazing agent, you negotiated a 67-day close, and you're sitting 33 days out and you still don't have a house. So that's part of that conversation on option 3 too. And if it's all that they can do, sometimes you'll say, guys, how do you feel about moving in with a family member? How do you feel about renting? And people do it. People will say, yeah, no, we're totally good. Like, my parents have a basement, and like, we're good to move in over there. And we can do that for 3 or 6 months if we don't find something, kind of a thing. So you'd be surprised how many times people are also willing to go rent something because it's their only option, or whatever it might be, right? So that's part of that conversation too. But there is risk there and pressure as an agent that you're like, okay, we got to find you something, and find something that someone will do do contingent on the sale of your home. So sometimes too, it's like, this is the plan, we can't find something non-contingent or something contingent. So they go ahead and close and move temporarily somewhere, and then you get to go be non-contingent. Does that make
Also,
sense?
Tanner, and I'm sure other lenders too, can do pre-underwritten, so someone can close in 2 weeks if that's the case, you know. So
Yes.
having them get pre-underwritten, not just pre-approved, has helped us out, even when
Even when they're contingent, and having all that in those ducks in a row and such are super important when you are contingent to show how solid you are, or non-contingent. And because you get under that like pressure when somebody's lease is gonna be up, right? Where you get down to, you're like, okay, I got 33 days. And I see many of you, myself, have been with Tanner where it's like, okay, how much time, like, how quick can you close this? Like, what is my drop dead date? I see people smiling here going, yep, I've been there. Okay, let's move on to, yes, so Kristen, I'm going to send these out via email afterwards. Let's see if I can, let's talk about any other questions when it comes to kind of going through explaining contingencies and that being a part of your listing presentation.
I was just gonna say, I think that there could be an option 4, which we just talked about, depending on their tolerance, which is kind of the risk of option 3 being, we do go ahead and get your house on the market. What is our contingency plan when we don't find you a house before that closing date? And we've done it before, and like you said there, I had a family with like a 1-year-old and a 5-year-old, and I thought, oh my God, this is gonna completely turn them upside down, and they just put everything in the pod and moved in with her parents for a month, and they were like happy to do it.
Yeah, because it's like your mindset around it too, where it's like, it's a temporary, like it'll be 3 months because we're gonna be
Yeah.
aggressive when we go out and make offers.
And then they were able
And
to
it
be
is-
really aggressive.
Yeah, it's what we wanted, it's what we can do and what our options are. Like, you would be really surprised. And I think it's a great point, because a lot of times I think we make assumptions in our head of what someone else would be comfortable doing. And it's really important to make sure that we're not like putting our own thoughts and feelings on things and give people, because you're gonna be shocked in real estate how many times you're like, no, what, you didn't want to counter again? I thought I told you that we could get a whole lot more money out of these people. And people be like, no, my tolerance level is just like, let's just be good. Or I'll move in with my folks for a month. Not a big deal, Amanda. Put everything in the pod. It's like we're going on vacation. I got a babysitter for no. A live-in babysitter for a month. Like, yes, let's do this. Right. Okay, the next piece is, this is going through explaining how a recast works. So again, I've got this filled out. We're going to go through it step by step. I wanted you to also have an option to where you could fill in the blanks with your clients at the dining room table. Because again, this was another time that I'm trying to go through and explain how recasting works to a homeowner, and their eyes start to glaze over because numbers are not their thing. We've also had a lot of things that we've talked about. Okay, so this was my,
Like you're recasting the full owner.
no, it's not.
I've never heard of this.
Okay, so this is kind of, we're going to use the example of someone is wanting to buy a new home of 400,000, and their goal is to have 20% down so that they don't have to pay PMI. So they're going to be a conventional, their goal is to be a conventional 20% down. And if you guys flip to the next page, you walk through each page with me, so you can take notes on each page, each step of the way if you want. Is that on the back side? You should see where there's a 400. And then the next page is going to just be the next slide if you want to follow along. I don't know if that was the best way to do it, but that's where we're at. Okay, so the goal is to be 20% down, so they're not making that mortgage insurance payment, okay? And we would say we've had a conversation and just gone over that their current home, I felt the value was 250 for it. And then I felt pretty comfortable that we would at least get 250 for it. And so their proceeds, after going through their proceeds worksheet, would be 100,000. So at that point, they're going, I need that 100,000 to be able to have my they want to use this 100,000 towards that 80,000, 20% down payment. Does that make sense? So one option for doing it, if they qualify, is they can make an offer on a new home with 5% down, non-contingent on the sale of their old home. So they have to be able to carry both mortgages with only 5% down on the new house. And they have to come up with that $20,000, whether it's $20,000 they have sitting in their bank account or in one of those other forms that Tanner can explain to you, okay? From there, they're going to close on that new house. Is everyone following along with me? Maybe it is harder, and you could go to the very last page and it's going to have all of the steps on it if you want to, guys. So thank you for stumbling through that with me. Okay, so they're on the new house, they're gonna close on the new loan with a 95% loan to value. Does that make sense? It's gonna be a 30-year term with an interest rate of 2.875%. Okay, so we still, everybody following me there? So we've got PMI on it right now. The mortgage payment's gonna be a little higher. It might be $2,800 a month because they've only put 5% down. And they still need 60,000 to get to their goal of 80,000 down and no PMI on that and what they want that new loan to look like. At that point, we're going to put their home on the market, or we may have already put their home on the market. They're going to close on the sale of their current home that they live in right now. So they'll close on the new one, move in, maybe don't move in, maybe they're painting, maybe they're whatever they're doing, but they're closing on the new one first. At a later date, they're closing on the old one. And we're going to take the proceeds from the sale of the old one. We're going to take that 100K and they're going to apply 60,000 of it to the new home loan and recast that mortgage. Everybody still kind of following me? So 60,000 of the 100 is going to go up to the new mortgage to that lender, and they're going to recast. And they're going to take the other 40,000 and apply it to other things. Maybe it's replenishing where they got the 20,000 from, whether it's their bank account or a 401k or rainy day fund or mom and dad or a cousin or whatever. You can do you. That's again, right? Or they're paying down credit cards or doing whatever they want with the other 40,000. Does that make sense? Okay, so the way that that recast works on the new house, it costs about $300 with the lender to do. A lot of times you can use the same appraisal from when they bought it. They don't have to do a new appraisal. And they're going to apply the $60,000, which is going to drop the loan to value below 80%. And that's going to lower the balance of the loan by $60,000. They're going to take that then and they're going to recast it across the 30-year term that is remaining on the loan. And the loan will then, like at the end date for that loan, if it was a 30-year loan and we bought it, we closed on January 2nd, would be January 2nd of 2052. If they recast later this year, it's going to still be, the last payment's going to still be January 2nd of 2052. Does that make sense? We're not extending the loan at all. Okay, the rate gets to stay the same. So they've already locked in their rate. And so that might take that $2,800 a month payment and drop it down to where it's $2,200 a month, which is where they felt more comfortable and wanted to be. They're not setting up their escrow account again. That's already been set up, so they don't have to come up with that money again. So it's different than refinancing. Okay. And is everyone following me there? I'm going to take a quick breath and make sure everybody's following along. Yes, Kristen, it's a way to remove the PMI without putting the entire 20% up front. Okay, so a couple other facts about it. They do have to wait one mortgage payment to be able to recast. And this is an important piece of it, and it's an important expectation to set. You might have that 1 month or so pass anyways because their house isn't closed yet, right? Because they were doing some work and they wanted to take a little time to move in.
It's have to be 1 month or 1 mortgage payment.
One mortgage payment.
3 months.
Correct. So that's what I was going to go through next. So guys, it's got to be a mortgage payment. So again, if our example, we closed January 2nd, congratulations, you just bought a new house. Their first mortgage payment skips a month because we pay in arrears, right? So the first mortgage payment is not going to be until March 1st. So they will not be able to recast that loan until April, and contact the lender and be working on that in March, April time. Does that make sense? So they need to be prepared to make at least one mortgage payment with a bigger mortgage payment. And depending on how big of a house it is, that might be, an expectation of like, hey, we need to be prepared to make a bigger one, right? So that's a good expectation to set with them. And I think it's really important that you're communicating to the lender that this is the plan. Tanner is great about this. And he is good to note, but there's things that they can do on their side, especially if they're a broker and they're going to sell your client's loan. they may not sell it to another, they may do something different with that loan because they know the purpose and the plan is to recast. Okay. So that's the whole recasting process. Does that? I know it sounds silly a little bit, guys, but I will tell you, there have been years that like I sold, well, 2-3 million more because I was able to have this conversation at a high level with people and explain this option to people. And people would go, oh, that sounds combining the two, that sounds way less risky than us selling our house, moving twice, and maybe getting something that we really don't actually want on the other side. These people purchasing typically, I would say 9 out of 10 do not want to settle on the new house. Their willingness to compromise on some things are going to be a little bit less. Sometimes not so much, right? Sometimes people are like, hey, I'll do whatever. We just want a house and I need more space. But you're going to have some people that are going to say their first house, they're willing to do whatever. And they're so excited to own a home. The second one, they're like, no, I want the school district we want. I want the 3-car garage. I want the bedroom level laundry. And so it might be harder to get them something. So I would say that being able to do this is a practice it, find a friend, rehearse it, practice it out loud by yourself in your bedroom and in front of a mirror. But like really being able to go and have a conversation, you being calm and knowing how to flow through, because you'll be interrupted. There'll be questions. There'll be eyes glazing over where you're like, you didn't catch any of what I just said, did you? And I think you see me say that sometimes to some of you all, right? To say like, are we good? And one of the techniques that we learned in Bold and through different trainings at Keller Williams is always to say, what I hear you saying is, and that's a really nice way. I use it all the time with my bosses. What I hear you saying is this, right? And in some senses, it allows me to take a moment to like make sure that I'm clarifying and then taking a note because I'm getting you to commit, right? Because you may not have directly said that. You kind of were all over here and it's hard for you to say it out loud or you don't know how to put the words together. But by me saying what I hear you saying is you'd feel more comfortable going ahead and buying the new house, moving into it, staging this one, and then selling it. Yeah, I mean, and then if it's 2 of them, they might look at each other and go, yeah, no, I think, yeah. And you've been able in that appointment to come up with a plan and walk out with a plan and say, okay, I'll go ahead, I'll give a call to Tanner on my way back to the office too, and kind of run down what we're thinking. And again, you're then saying like, let me help set up that conversation so it's that much easier for them too. Does that make sense? Awesome. Okay, I appreciate you guys. How did we do on time? 31 minutes. You guys get 29 minutes of your life back unless you have anything else you want to chat about.
And you're gonna email this one?
I will email this form. I have this one here in a digital format that you guys can make changes to. All that I ask is, and I'll send it to you to where it'll force you to make a copy. Please make a copy of it so you're not changing my original. But I'll try to send it to you where it forces you to do that. Sometimes I'm good at that and sometimes I'm not good at that. So, but yeah, and this is not something I would email over to someone. This is a great thing to take with you, right? And people do love visuals. I think oftentimes and a leave behind. I might even recommend if you take the one that's blank and you're filling in the blanks, I might take a second to explain that. The purpose and how my mind worked in designing this, y'all, is to put what we talked about they thought their new house would be in the upper right. Then I'm literally doing the math with them. Do we want to put 5% down on that? Do you want to put 10% down? Do you want to run this scenario of just putting 5% down? 5% down. I'm calculating what that down payment is and putting it in the blank. And then I'm writing that up above on the top of the roof there. So then I'm able to fill in that's the loan to value is going to be 95% with a 30-year term. And then interest rate, I can put a question mark or put like ish on there, right? And then a goal of we're wanting to get to 30% down. Our goal is to have 40% down or whatever that might be and what that number is. And then how much we, encircling this is how much we need to get out of here. And then we're putting at the bottom above the house at the bottom, their current home value, what we think the equity will be out of that. Guys, I always preach to doing a range. I would use the bottom range of that you feel really comfortable you're going to be able to hit. If you're not sure if you're going to be able to sell there, pretty confidently you can sell it for 250 and you feel really good, you probably might get 270, use 250. We're making life decisions on this. We might have a heck of a lot more guys and we'll celebrate then. But then putting the proceeds number next to the house and then talking through how would you want to break that out? Then are we going to just take the rest to make this whole appear for what our goal is? And then you can talk to, okay, and then what's the plan here? But it's literally filling in the blank. maybe take 2 for yourself. And the reason I say take 2 for yourself is that you don't have a photocopier at their home. And they will ask, can you, are you leaving that with me? Like, can I have that? And so it might be nice for you to be able to scribble in what those numbers were, so you have record of it for when you leave the house as well. But people really, I do think, value that leave behind, and that you're gonna walk through this in a similar way with anyone that they refer you to or refer to you. All right, Elizabeth, good to see you. Jordan, I hope the move went well. Kristen, I hope you have a great day. We've got, I feel like I should turn the camera around. Like, we've got Amanda, Travis, Sarah, Zach, Candace, all in the room, like living it up. It's a good crowd today, guys. Happy New Year. Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate you guys.